Hey everyone, welcome to Artificially Important. Today, let's talk about AI in healthcare and how it's going to help us lead into a much healthier future. So this article I got pulled up was from 2019, talking about how much AI is going to benefit everybody in the year 2020. If they could only imagine what kind of 2020 we'd be having, this article probably would have been written a little differently. But what's interesting about this article is that AI in healthcare is expected to grow annually at 48% between the years 2017 and 2023. That is a large increase of half, of course. And I think that's even a low number. I think it would be even a little higher. As AI improves, we are going to see more people use it. And especially with AI becoming smarter, like that's what I mean by improves, it becomes smarter, more intelligent, has less false positives, and etc., etc. But when we talk about artificial intelligence, especially with it in healthcare, I mean, artificial intelligence has so many different things it can be used for, but especially in healthcare is a place I like to focus on quite a bit, because really it comes down to our health. It comes down to if we are healthy or if we're not. And we could save millions of people's lives, if not billions, with artificial intelligence. Now you could call me a little bit, I look at the good side of AI in healthcare. To me, there's not many bad sides with it in healthcare, but we can talk about that later in the video. So pretty much AI right now in healthcare has been being used for looking at how to build like different types of proteins, especially here in 2020. You can sign up and use your computer graphic power to fold the proteins, and that's using machine learning to do so. And AI also looks at, of course, with AI you have to have a large data set in order for the machine to learn what to look for. So it's also been used in looking for different types of cancers, especially early stage cancers, where the doctor may miss it, because one of the top killers, I'm not exactly sure what the percentage is, you'd have to look this up, but I believe one of the top killers in the United States is malpractice. So what happens if we had a computer that made the decision over a doctor? Now, of course, people are going to be concerned about that, and I'm sure I would even be a little concerned, especially in the beginning, if a computer is making a decision. But I don't think AI at the moment is there to take over the decision. AI is there to help the doctor decide on how to move forward, such as if AI and a doctor look at an x-ray of a broken leg, doctor sees nothing, but the AI knows to look a little deeper and maybe in other spots and notice that there is a hairline fracture somewhere on the arm. That right there would help the doctor look for that area and then be able to decide for himself or herself on how to move forward. And AI could also give the doctor tips on how to move forward as well. I mean, with conventional medicine, you go get your degree for how many hundreds of years you have to go do that for. You have to spend all that money, and then, you're a doctor. But things change. It's just like being in technology. Things change. So you have to learn every day, and you have to stay on top of everything, otherwise you will fall behind and still be prescribing old treatments. So, some examples of AI in healthcare, like I was just talking about. IBM's Watson has been able to pinpoint treatments for cancer patients, along with Google Cloud's healthcare app has also done. AI has also been used a lot in what most of us wear, or like our smartwatches, or even our phones. AI is built into that, like with Apple Watch. It measures your heart rate, and has an EKG sensor that, and it is able to learn your patterns. So if it finds an off pattern, it actually alerts you You can actually call 911 from there or go to the hospital, which has saved many lives, especially if you watch the latest Apple keynote. They had a lot of people on there that spoke about how it did save their life. And it is quite interesting, so I strongly suggest you check it out. AI is also good at the moment at giving examples for treatments for certain illnesses that we may not know a good treatment for. So say like, just for an example, let's say Alzheimer's. AI has been able to give a list of treatments of medicines that currently exist and are FDA approved that may help slow the process of Alzheimer's. So we may not have to come up with a whole new drug in order to heal some of the illnesses that we have now. We've seen this with COVID when they started to use some of the malaria drugs in early tests, because they were starting to show improvement in the patients. And that's pretty much what AI is doing as well. It's just looking at all the data, feeding that all in, and taking pretty much the probability of each one working from there. So in an article from Health Tech, dated February 26, 2020, they start to talk about the future of AI in healthcare, where they talk to a couple data scientists from Dartmouth College, and they just kind of talk about how it's being used in its current settings. Do we think it's going to help, or will it hurt by giving the wrong information? They go through all that. And like I said, you guys can read all through this later if you would like. But one of the sections that I really found interesting was the clinical applications of AI today. So this talks about like the virtual assistants. So with much like you have a Echo or a Siri or a Google at home, they're using AI as a virtual assistant. Now, most of those devices at home, they're really just grabbing data off a search engine and reading it back to you to try to sound personable. There is no intelligence off of that. Now, they do have some machine learning built in where it learns what you may ask and then has those questions and answers pre-pulled up. But it is not true AI. It is what would you call it? It is a figment of AI. Let's call it that. It's a figment of AI. So pretty much, like I said, virtual assistants, and they're going to continue to get smarter and be able to help. There is a couple apps out there right now that you can put in your symptoms, and the app itself will tell you what you may have, or if you should go to the doctor. Now, I'm hoping I have not tested out myself, and I'm hoping it's not like just going to WebMD with a sore throat and somehow now you have testicular cancer. I hope it's not like that. But as the years go forward, they are getting much smarter. Now, this Melifield, or Melifind, I should say, is quite interesting because it uses infrared light to evaluate pigmented lesions on the skin, and then it uses algorithms to decide if they are cancers or not. So pretty much it would use infrared to look at a mole on your skin and then be able to look at its data set to decide if it is a skin cancer or not. Now, of course, we wouldn't let it do it just by itself right now. It would come up with a conclusion, and then a doctor, a dermatologist, would then decide thereon. But it is quite interesting, and I do believe that is a technology that is going to be... I could picture someday where you may walk into the doctor's office or just take a picture with your phone, with all the sensors within your phone, and it could be able to read if you have, or your likelihood of skin cancer for that mole, or any other odd thing you have on your skin. Robotic assisted therapy. Been seeing this a lot with, you saw this with when Elon Musk did his Neuralink presentation, if you've had a chance to watch that. So pretty much he goes through, they actually have a robot that inserts these little thin hair like little copper wires that are very, very small. And the machine looks at the brain using machine learning and then actually places them in the correct spots in the brain while also missing any vital veins, so then you don't bleed in the brain at all. And it's quite interesting to watch. I strongly suggest you watch it. And I will put a link to that in the description because that is the future today. So what, and this article also talks about, so what should medical professionals consider before adopting AI? Now, of course, we just can't put everything down, put everything off to the side, all the doctors off to the side, fire all the doctors and say, oh, we're going to have an app do it. We, of course, cannot do that. And a good example I think of with that, I mean, it's not in healthcare, but with Tesla, where they made their entire product line or manufacturing line for the cars using artificial intelligence and using robots. But they figured out some things just are done better currently by humans than robots. Even though robots can do it 24 hours and you don't have to pay them, etc. But there's still some things that are done better by humans because of the way we think versus robots. So I find that interesting, and I think that can apply with AI in healthcare as well. And of course, most of this AI power stuff will probably need to get FDA approval of some sort so it can be used. You don't want someone downloading a $10 app off of their iPhone and using it to tell if you've got skin cancer or not. You, of course, don't want a doctor doing that. So that is some of the areas, or of the areas that they should consider before adopting AI. Now I wanted to move on to a couple of companies that I found that I really find interesting. One is called Path AI. So Path AI is a newer company that, well, actually, it's probably easier if I show you this, because they actually have a very good website compared to some of the other companies that I've looked at. To me, if you're a tech company, you should have a good website. It's like the basic part of being a tech company. But anyway, I'll get off my soapbox for now. So, like it says, imagine Elise, 40-year-old mother, who discovers a lump on her breast, and takes her clinic, takes a tissue sample, sends it to the pathologist. Pathologist looks at it and tries to figure out if it is cancerous or not. So then it talks about just how hard a pathologist's job is, because you're trying to look at these cells and this can be life or death too, because if you get it wrong and someone does have cancer, then of course death is much higher. You have a much higher chance of death than what you do if you were to catch it early. So that's what Path AI is kind of looking into, and then it talks about what they actually use. So Path AI solution is to assist pathologists in making rapid and accurate diagnosis for every patient every time. So this would be like I chatted before, is where the AI would go out and look for different areas, scan the tissue samples, and then find maybe probable areas that may be cancerous or not. And then a pathologist could go and look at those areas. So it would also be able to, it would give the patient and the doctor certain therapies that would also be able to help for what kind of cancer they may or may not have. So it goes on to talk about how it could be done globally, on a smartphone, real easy, as long as you upload the tissue sample. And this works all with machine learning, where they give it tons and tons of data sets from people who have had cancer, people who don't have cancer, and it teaches itself in a way to look for certain patterns. And this pretty much just allows one more step in the process that may save a person's life. And I will put the websites that I talk about in the description for PathAI. It was just a cool company that I came across, and they're not sponsored or anything, but I thought it would be cool to talk about. Now, one more I wanted to talk about before I let everybody go is Excel Therapeutics. So they're leveraging AI to actually develop high value therapeutics aimed at transforming patients' life. So this company did kind of what I talked about earlier with what companies did with COVID, is they're using AI to look at diseases we don't currently have cures for and seeing if there's any current medication on the market that may help or even cure the uncurable disease. So they try to tie in those. They're trying to tie, like I said, Alzheimer's to a certain pre-FDA approved or current FDA approved drug. And with machine learning and AI getting as good as it is, and I also find if this was put with quantum computing as well, we can do millions of different simulations at once. We're going to be in a whole different world, one we may not even notice soon. And that's why I'm so excited about AI. And of course, you guys would be too if you've listened this far. But so that's why I just wanted to bring up some of these companies. There's a whole list of companies that are doing different types of things with AI. Some companies do just use AI as a term to make or try to sell something to you, saying they're using AI, but they're really not. But these are actual companies that are using artificial intelligence, pretty much machine learning, to help in the healthcare field. Now, of course, I'm interested to see what you guys think. Do you guys think healthcare and AI will get along? Do you think that it's going to improve us? Or do you think it's going to be is it going to be such an improvement that we live much longer? Is it going to not be feasible? What's your thoughts? I'd love to hear them in the comments. Of course, do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I mean, you can dislike too. I really don't care. YouTube algorithm does good anyway. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see y'all in the next one. This is Artificially Important. Goodbye.